Click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, support channel, become a member, or join the Telegram. It's a free. It's like Discord, but it doesn't have the censorship like at all. And you can upload, I think, 2 GB files, where Discord is limited to like 8 MB or something crazy. Or click the various other links for coffee and all that other kind of stuff. So congratulations to Netflix. Get woke, go broke. That phrase, which actually turns out is probably more true than not. It doesn't matter to them, because this is not a fiduciary relationship. This is a religion. This is an ideology to these people. They really don't care about the money, because the people who are making the decisions are well insulated. Like, yeah, there's a concept of, if you breach your fiduciary duty to the shareholders so badly, they can pierce the corporate veil to go after your personal assets legally. Yeah, there's that concept, but you really got to go out on a ledge to get that. These people, and even if they had to, even if they were personally liable for that breach, these people, they're driven to varying degrees in a way that any religious zealot is driven. Disney, Netflix, HBO, all these companies who are pushing this ideology, it's not about profit for them. As you could see by Netflix, which I don't know if you can see this, but I guess it peaked about a year ago at about $700 per share, and this probably adjusted for splits. That's why it's kind of wonky. And they're down to 215 now. So that's a pretty good chunk of that's a pretty good loss, and it doesn't bode well. That's not the direction you want to go in. And they lost subscribers, and they're also predicting that they're going to lose more in the future, which is obviously not a direction you want to go in. But the getting the woke stuff, that didn't help either. And now actually, like, all the stuff that's coming out with Disney is bringing attention to all. It's not just Disney or Netflix. It's bringing attention to all these streaming companies, because you look at them and you're able to talk about it on social media, and you realize, like, oh, these are just kind of bad people who want to teach your kids all kind of really creepy stuff. So as people start focusing on Disney and Florida and DeSantis, it starts spreading out. And they start, you're looking at Netflix and Cartoon Network and all these other networks, and you realize, oh, they're kind of in the same boat together, to the point where if they have to take a huge financial loss and literally tank the company, if you follow human history, there's a bunch of zealotry throughout the ages of remember from what was the gilding the lily, the flower bloom in the Dutch flower bloom type of stuff, that kind of stuff. Those little blooms, bloom and bust cycles have happened throughout history, of people getting on board with some position, and it's just a fever that catches the human imagination. And you look back through history and you realize, oh, these people have done this for thousands of years. And you think, oh, but we're advanced. Yeah, we're not really that advanced. The culture has advanced faster than the biology, as a professor used to say. We still get caught up in the same tricks, because the human psychology is just not changing fast enough to catch up to dealing, like putting aside emotion and acting logically. Though one day you can get that Elon Musk brain chip, and maybe you can take some of that emotion out of your brain. You look at these people who are doing this insane stuff. Like, there's a big collection of people who are looking at these people in social media or Disney and that kind of stuff, who are making this kind of thing, and we're wondering, who's your audience? Who's your audience for this stuff? Because it's just this feels like part of a humiliation ritual. It feels like there's something more that's going on with just making entertainment and selling that entertainment for a monthly fee. Because, they boil the frog slowly, but at some point, for someone like me who doesn't watch a whole bunch of this stuff, to dip in and out every few months and see what they're putting out there, and I look at something like this and I think, oh, is this a parody or something? It's a joke, right? And there's a bunch of other offerings across the different networks. Even who's that Robert Jordan book is coming out. It's kind of a Tolkien ripoff, where they swapped out every character, which they also did to Lord of the Rings, swapped out the Wheels of Time series with Robert Jordan, and then J.R. Tolkien's his books, and you look at them and go, oh, they swapped out all the characters? Yeah. Wait a minute, but these characters are described by Jordan and Tolkien in the books. they're clearly described. Like one of the characters is a short red-haired girl, and they describe her, and it's like she swapped out. Of course, it's going to be a black girl, and they did that to they did that to both of the series, because anything that's distinctly, got to be a little cautious on YouTube, but basically, it's anything that's distinctly European they want to destroy. They want to change history as much as possible, and they want to brainwash kids, which is why you see Netflix is willing to go from a high of $700 per share down to $200 per share, because it's like it's a loss of like $56 billion or something, because the money is just, it's keeping score, and they need money to get this stuff done. But personally, the people who are making the decision, the top 1%, they've got enough money where they don't need to worry about it, and they don't care about anyone else who works at that company. That's what it boils down to. The company is just a tool. The people are just fungible tokens in an economic zone. They're just cattle to be used and abused, and they don't care what happens to the company. There's no loyalty from top to bottom, and there should be no loyalty from bottom to top, as people are quickly learning. The company is just a tool to propagate propaganda and ideology. So when you dip in and out every 6 months or every year, and you come back to looking at the shows they're putting out, yeah, no shit, it looks like it's a parody, because it's insane. This kind of stuff, it's like, oh, I can't help but, like, tistic me, I can't help but notice that all these European characters, like the ones who look stereotypically out of Aryan central casting stereotypes, blonde, red-haired, green-eyed, blue-eyed, those are the ones you're swapping out specifically for African characters. And I mean, I'm not the only one to have noticed this. There's a bunch of other channels. Pirates and Princesses, she's got a website. They're the guys who run Clownfish TV, and I think she went through or whoever runs their website, I think it's them, went through and, there's people who list all the times they swapped out all the characters, not just Disney, but, characters in general, for red-haired characters like the ginger side. But I'll go even further, like red or blonde-hair characters, because those are when you're dealing with a visual medium with comics or movies, they're like this and they're dark-eyed, dark-haired Englishmen. You can look at any English rock band out of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and it's like majority of them had black hair and either hazel or dark eyes. The Beatles and the Kinks and whoever else coming out of England for some reason. I mean, there's a lot of people who look like that, and they're 100% European characters. But when you put them in a comic or a movie, it's a little bit harder, because the whole theme of these filthy globalist vermin parasites is F Whitey, and F Whitey in their mind is like this Aryan central casting cliche stereotype, and if they put some dark-haired, dark-eyed Englishman or Irishman or something in it, they don't want that person to be confused for a Mediterranean who's like, they kind of in their woke minds, they don't really know how to classify Mediterranean people, or a Middle Eastern person or a Central American Spanish type of thing. They don't want you to confuse the visual imprint to think, oh, this is because the whole theme is F Whitey. That, like, throughout movies is going to be F Whitey. Like, if you've been reading comics and paying attention to the diversity in comics, he started his stuff like 5 years ago. I mean, he didn't come out and say it as much, but it's like that was the theme that was running through comics, was F Whitey, and Whitey is blonde or red hair. That's like peak whiteness in their mind. And to be fair, there's a hierarchy. There's hierarchies within any and every group, and there's going to be kind of a loose hierarchy that way with the the blue-eyed, blonde-haired stereotype. So that's why the characters are in comics, if they want to, or in movies, they want somebody who's just has to be coded to be a bad guy. It's going to be blonde hair, blue eyed, and yeah, there's a little bit of that issue if stuff happened. I mean, 80 years ago is that's a big chunk of it, but it's also broader than that. They want it very clearly. The bad guy has to be blonde hair, blue eyed. Even in Wonder Woman 84, that South American guy, that actor, they dyed his hair blonde for the role, and that was a little bit of a nod to Trump, but it was also like they want you to very clearly visually code blonde hair, red haired people as the bad guys. They do it in comics all the time. If I wanted to put like some time into it, I could. It would take a couple months and take some funding to go through and like do a list of that. Like, I mean, somebody's probably already done it, the coding for protagonists, antagonists in comics, and where comics it's very quickly apparent. You can see, I mean, you could just simply draw a line on a piece of paper and start going through and put with a matrix of date and time. It's like, oh, this really is coded this way. yeah, they're doing it for a reason. So that's why they don't put, like, you know, somebody who looks like they could be playing the Beatles or the Kinks as the bad guy, because on a visual medium, it's like, oh, well, they've got dark hair, dark eyes. What are they exactly? And when you very clearly want to get this concept across of F. Whitey, you're not going to put somebody, I can't think of a Kinks or a Beatles name. You're not going to put somebody who looks like, you know, it could be Irish, could be vaguely Asian, could be, you know, they want it very clearly coded that Germans are going to be, the blonde hair, blue eyed stereotype is going to be peak bad guy. And no, it's not going away. They will gladly get in focus, run the companies into the ground if they have to, and just move on to other companies. There's no thought in their mind of, oh, we've got to protect the company for the long-term goals, to protect the employees, and people depend on us, and there's none of that. None of that. All that bullshit. You know, if that only exists in small groups of, I mean, that doesn't exist in a country that is turned into an economic zone. That's impossible to exist. So they would bankrupt Disney and Netflix. I mean, it's going to be almost impossible to bankrupt Disney because they have too many streams from older stuff that's still licensed. But if something like Netflix or HBO or a bunch of, well, the thing is they have a bunch of old. See, maybe that's kind of the thing that's keeping them going, is they all have old licenses that are bringing in money. Netflix, maybe not so much. I don't know if they have a whole lot of original program, you know, that's bringing in money over the decades, but HBO definitely does. So maybe that's why they're sitting on so much cash, HBO and Disney's, because they've got those old properties that are just cash cows. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.